You're listening to the Teak Nation podcast, where we strive to educate, inspire, and entertain you with tips and lessons from frauders and friends of TKE.
Teak Nation podcast listeners, welcome in. It is March 1st. I thought that March had just concluded not too long ago, and suddenly here we are, right back in the middle of it. So I guess that's good news. Spring starts in March, which makes you a happy man, Donnie. Getting that weather turned around a little bit. Going straight to the MCL early bird crew discussion, but it is it's getting a little sunnier, a little nicer out, and spring is almost upon us.
Yeah, I sent you a screenshot of what the Weather Channel is posting, which is that we're going to have above average temperatures in the month of March, which makes me extremely happy. The interesting / I guess you would say unique marker in March is we are going to mark 1 year since the pandemic has started and all of our lives have been upended in one way or another.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a good episode in the next few weeks, is a little pandemic year in review. Because I think if you would have told me a year ago that the next year would play out like it did, I probably would have slapped you in the face. And it's just the unpredictability of life. It's been a rough one, but yeah, I still remember, I think it was March 22nd was our last day in the office. And so we're getting up on that 1 year anniversary, sitting here at the homestead and in front of my laptop. And, the things that I've learned about Zoom and YouTube and podcasting in the last year have really, they haven't quite counterbalanced all the negatives of the last year, but there's a little bit of positive to that, I would say.
I think the other positive is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Saul is getting emergency approval over the weekend, so we're going to have 3 vaccines. That's crazy to imagine as well, right? A year ago, coronavirus was something that we were starting to hear about, but it didn't have any sort of seriousness to the level that it had in later March. And here we are a year later, 3 vaccines for something that usually vaccines take years upon years upon years. So amazing folks out there in the medical industry. Yeah,
I'm ready to go. I mean, if someone showed up at my doorstep this afternoon, knocked on my door and was wearing a lab coat with a needle and said, "I got your COVID vaccine right here," I'd roll my sleeve up, get a Band-Aid ready to go, and just say, "Let me have it." I'm all in on the vaccine, and I don't even need to go to clinic. Just start going door to door and sticking.
Yeah, I feel like right. I don't think that is the strongest medical advice, and I would hate for any of our listeners to decide that's a good idea to just, random guy in a white coat shows up with a syringe to let him insert it in your arm door to door. I don't think that's actually, I'm going to go on record. That's not a good idea.
That's a risk I'm willing to take at this point. I mean, you gotta pick and choose your risks in life, and that's one of them. Although I would be surprised if at this point any of our listeners are taking my medical advice seriously. So if you are, I think you're too far gone at this point. I don't know how to help you if the things that I say about how to take care of your body are gospel to you. But for me personally, I'm ready for that needle.
Well, hopefully they continue to do a great job on distribution, ramp up distribution, probably the best way to put it, ramp up distribution and get it to where we can start to take the vaccine, and that will really get life back to normal and get folks out comfortable traveling and doing all the things that they enjoy doing.
Yeah, I'm ready to go for Leadership Academy too. We gotta get that squared away before August for Leadership Academy.
2 weeks from today is the application deadline for Leadership Academy.
Get them in. Don't wait until March 14th at 10:57 p.m. to get your application in, because it's not going to be very good. Because guess what? I've read a lot of applications that have been submitted on March 14th at 10:57 p.m. They're usually pretty poor. So just This is one area I would listen to me. Medical advice, not so much. Leadership Academy application advice, I am probably one of the foremost experts in all of Teak Nation.
Additional advice, really focus on that narrative. That narrative is an opportunity for you to highlight what you have done in the fraternity, what you want to do in the fraternity, what you want to do in life, how you're going to take advantage of this tremendous experience, these folks who come and share their knowledge, download their brains to you. It is a phenomenal week out in Colorado Springs, and if you want to be a part of it, make sure you beef up that narrative.
And we're going to freaking do it. We're going to do it. I will be very upset if we don't. All right, what else we got going on today? We got I'm gonna give you a little NBA TopShot update here in a few minutes. I know that's been on the forefront of everyone's mind for the last week. Fun rule of three planned in a little bit. Zach will be with us, and then we have a fun little interview here coming up with Frater Joe Santangelo. Joe is a team member on Team Gary V, works for Gary Vaynerchuk and helps with his podcast and as a content creator. And we get into a lot of different topics with Joe. He's from Staten Island, which is very apparent in the first few minutes that we're on the interview with him, but looking forward to that later as well. First, though, I do have a small bone to pick with Teak Nation. We, out of the kindness of our hearts, opened up the comments on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter after last week's episode about your movie takes. And we asked everyone to share what their worst movie experience was. Didn't get a lot of hits. And unfortunately, the one that we did, or one of the few that we did get, was Eric T, who I don't even know. There's probably a lot of Eric T's across Teak Nation. And he said the worst movie he's ever seen was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is just the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard in my life. I don't even know where to start with that. I don't know if he was trying to troll me because I was talking about how much I love Leo. I don't know if he watched the movie blindfolded or with headphones on, listening to another movie. But if you're going to engage with us on social media, don't engage in such a manner that makes you seem like a fool. So Eric, if you're listening, I can't even say I respect your opinion. Thank you for commenting. Please go watch that movie again and just change your mind.
Eric, I want to thank you for listening to the Teak Nation podcast and commenting. Hopefully you reach out to a number of your other friends to comment as well. We appreciate all those who are engaging.
And that's all? You don't have a take on Eric's take? I don't know if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, have you?
I find it's ironic that you ask for people to give takes and highlights. Eric steps up, does what others don't, and gives a take. You come out like Dan Dockett's just throwing fire.
There's a topical reference that I think not a lot of people understand, but quick Google search for.
Hey, he was trending last night on Twitter. He was trending in the United States.
He was everywhere. I couldn't look at Twitter without reading about Dan Dockage last night, which was another miserable experience. But no, I appreciate that Eric commented. I think it was a little short-sighted. I mean, look, that movie is not for everyone. I understand that. There are some things about it that are a little strange, but it's not the worst movie of all time. I don't know how you could watch that movie and think I've never seen a worse movie than this. I mean, just the Brad Pitt performance alone elevates it into at least like second worst movie of all time. Just pick a new worst. I don't care what it is. So
maybe Eric's got a different catalog of movies that he's tuning into, right? He's not watching some of the horrible flicks that you and I have to be subjected to at times.
I guess that if the only movies you've ever seen are Godfather, Godfather Part 2, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, then yes. Okay. Then yeah, sure. Maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood would be the worst movie that you've ever seen.
Yeah, you don't know that Eric T's even a frauder. I mean, he might be 6 years old. He might have only seen those 3 movies.
If he was 6 years old, I would expect that his movie catalog would be like Paw Patrol Rescue, Bubble Guppies, something to do with Blippi, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I would probably put Blippi a category below. Do your kids Blippi? Can't that guy just creeped me out?
I have no idea what you're talking about. But here's the interesting part. See, this is what you got to think about. If he is 6 years old, if Eric is 6, And those are the things he's watched. And then he watched, right? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Then it would be the worst movie he's ever seen because he's into Paw Patrol.
Yeah,
there's not enough animation, right? The storyline seems complicated. It's a Tarantino film. There's just a lot going on there where you would be more into the Paw Patrol.
Also, shout out to Eric for creating and activating and utilizing a Twitter account at 6 years old. That's you're ahead.
You know what's great? Eric is probably 54 years old, right? And seen 187 movies.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, and maybe he's not even a listener. Maybe he just engaged on social media. He saw the question and answered. So if you are listening, Eric, you already know how I feel about what you said. If you're not listening, Eric, this is for everyone else out there. Go find Eric and send him my way.
Random question. How many movies do you think you've watched?
Oh, man. I don't know.
Right. Isn't that an interesting, it's a question you don't ever get asked.
500? I don't know. How old am I? 30. Geez.
It's an interesting question, isn't it?
5 a year. I mean, 5 a year. I watch more movies than 5 a year. 10 a year is, I don't know. No, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
You don't ever get that question. Hey, how many movies have you watched in your life?
Reminded me of another funny movie moment that's probably not safe for this podcast. All right, are we ready to move on from movies?
The last piece on this,
okay,
which is amazing to the human brain that I think everyone should consider. Isn't it amazing how many things you can store in your brain? How many movie lines and plot lines, right? As well as music lyrics.
Yeah.
And for you, you've got 400,000 other things that you're going to talk about, including TopShot here in a second, update. Things in your brain that it's amazing that it can process all these things and remember.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when a song comes on that I haven't heard in 15 years and you just pick it up like they're like no time at all. I mean, if you started playing As Long As You Love Me by the Backstreet Boys, I mean, I probably haven't heard that song since I was 13 or 14, and I could give you the whole thing. So, your mind, the brain is just a fascinating. Maybe that's another just episode is the human brain.
You get me jazzed up about the human brain. I mean, between that Backstreet Boys song and O-Town, I mean, you probably listen to O-Town though.
No, I listen to O-Town daily. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
It's how I start it's my alarm clock is All or Nothing by O-Town. Yeah. So it's every day. Yeah. It's always fresh in the brain. All right, moving on from the human brain, NBA TopShot update. So I did promise you all, our listeners, that I would investigate, that I would try and get my hands on a pack, and that I would report back. So I'm pleased to report that, number one, I have purchased 3 NBA TopShot moments in the last week. I'm now the proud owner of, I can't remember what they are. That's good. A Karis LeVert steal and layup. So I'm banking on Karis LeVert getting healthy, coming back with the Pacers.
Did you get to pick these, or were these random moments?
I went into, so they have what's called a marketplace. Yeah. And the marketplace is where you list your moments for sale. And so you can go search a specific player, you can see what moments are out there, how rare they are, and then find something that's comfortable for you price wise and make a purchase. So Karis LeVert, number 1. Number 2, I have OG Anunoby handles. So, OG Anunoby's only 23 years old. I think he could get better. Might have a little value there. And then my third moment.
So handles, is that just him dribbling?
It's just him. Yeah. Well, it's him, and then he dribbles and then he finishes at the basket. Yeah.
Okay. He crossed somebody up?
I think so. I don't know. I haven't watched it since I bought it. And then number 3 is Trae Young layup. So Karis LeVert,
just a layup. That's it.
Yeah, but it's like a fancy layup. Like it's not just like he does something cool before it.
Like an up and under or anything?
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't have the moments cataloged in my brain yet.
I understand, but you bought these 3 things and now you have no idea what's even on them. You looked at them once.
All right, Trae. So I'm watching it right now. Trae Young. He's got Enes Kanter, dribbles, just throws up a floater. Okay, so it's over the top of Enes Kanter, who's a tall guy. Trae Young, not a tall guy. So there's So that's what makes it special, I guess.
Where do you store these?
It's just on the NBA TopShot website. Yeah. So 3 moments, and then I tried to get in on the pack drop. Well, first it was Thursday, and then they had technical difficulties, and then it became Friday, and they had 10,370 packs available or something, premium packs. 160,000 people in line for those packs. I was number 82,615. So I did not make the cut for the 10,000. Over the weekend, though, they did a pack pre-order where anyone who wanted a pack could go in and pre-order one that apparently will be in inboxes in the next 2 weeks. And I did get my pre-order in. So hopefully sometime between now and the middle of March, I'll be getting that base pack and opening some exciting moments.
Is it 1 moment? Is it 3 moments?
6 moments per pack.
6 moments.
Yep. But they gotta be, you got to find the rare ones. That's where the money is. If they're a common moment, you don't have as much value there.
For folks tuning in that have
no idea,
I was going to say income that they would like to invest into TopShot. How much do these 6 moments run you?
Well, that pack was $9. The premium pack that dropped on Friday was $99 because that was a higher level set of moments theoretically. It's all over the place.
Right, that's a much different scale. So you're hoping for a lottery ticket in there.
I would like to get my hands on a Zion moment, but they're just a little pricey for my taste. Of course, obvious. I mean Zion, but keeping an eye on them, seeing what the market does here. We talked to Jed, we've talked to BK. They would probably advise against it, but you just got to sprinkle a little bit of money everywhere. Just see what's out there.
I appreciate you being an intrepid reporter on this matter.
Investigative. Teak Nation podcast reports on NBA TopShot. All right. Anything else we need to talk about before we get to Rule of 3 here? I'm excited about this Rule of 3.
Let's do it.
All right. So the basis for this list here is that Donnie was a little harsh on the city of Philadelphia last week, I thought. Not any harsher than I was on Eric T just a few moments ago, but Zach was in Philly and Donnie shared a little bit of disdain for the city. So I do, not that we're going to redeem anything about Philly right now or apologize, because I don't think that's necessary, but I did want a Rule of 3 and talk about your favorite American cities, because we know what your least favorite American city is. So let's do your top 3 American cities.
Ready.
I'm ready when you are. Yeah.
Just no particular order. All 3 very, very strong cities.
All right.
New York City, LA, Houston.
Huh. Those are 3 of the 4 largest cities in America. Big city guy.
They are great cities.
When you say Los Angeles, I know that you mean this, but just for our listeners, you mean the greater LA area, all the beach, Manhattan Beach, Newport Beach, El Segundo, Venice, like everything, not just like downtown Los Angeles.
Well, I don't know that anyone, when they say any particular city, means just the downtown, right? If you say you like Indianapolis, which we both love Indianapolis, we're not talking about downtown. We're talking about the greater Indianapolis area.
Yeah, but I associate Indianapolis with downtown Indianapolis. I don't necessarily associate LA with downtown Los Angeles.
Well, let me break a little news to you when it comes to Houston. Houston proper is about an hour and a half drive from north to south.
Side to side.
So when I say Houston, it literally is an hour and a half worth of drive, which is great.
All right. Mine are somewhat similar to yours. So my number one, I will do it in particular order. My number 1 favorite city in America is New York City. So I just can't get enough of it. Have Joe on the podcast today. That's a crazy coincidence, but New York City, number 1. Number 2, San Diego. So about an hour to 6 hours south of LA, depending on traffic, but San Diego, beaches, everything, just wonderful. Love it. Number 3, you're not going to like this one. I thought long and hard about it because I have some honorable mentions as well. But number 3 slipped in here, New Orleans, Louisiana.
Well, I like New Orleans.
I did not think that you were a New Orleans fan.
Yeah, I love the food there. Now, I will tell you this: I have enjoyed when we go to New Orleans in December versus going to New Orleans in August.
Yeah,
because I can actually breathe. But yes, I love the city of New Orleans. Great people, great vibe.
Well, my one caveat.
Great food. That's why. I mean, let's be honest. You just want to go to New Orleans for the food and Mark Romick.
That's correct. And Zion. My caveat was that my first two cities, New York City and San Diego, I would live in. I would have no issues packing up and moving to either of those for different reasons and going to get different experiences living in both of those. I don't think that I could live in New Orleans. Great city to visit. Love you, Mark. Love you, Brad. All you guys down there that have made homes and lives in New Orleans. But I
don't forget about JT. Don't forget our chapter brother JT.
Yep, we got a lot of friends and family down there. But I don't think that I could pack it up and go live in New Orleans full time. My honorable, I have a number of other favorite cities. Wanted to shout out some honorable mentions. Boston, honorable mention. Great food there. Obviously the Red Sox, who we all love. And then two northern cities that don't get enough credit because they're cold weather cities, Milwaukee and Minneapolis. Those are both very, very nice downtowns, really good food, really good beer, social scene's fun. So Minneapolis and Milwaukee are both very, very good cities that just, I think, get kind of shut out of the best city in America conversation because they're sub-zero for about 4 months out of the year. But
yeah, Minneapolis has a great vibe.
Two good ones there. Noticeably absent from both of ours, which is surprising. Chicago, being Midwest. I mean, Chicago's like the Midwest Mecca when you're growing up.
Yeah, I think we got to be careful here. We don't get ourselves shut out of Chicago, but there's a lot of pride from people that live in Chicago, right? That Chicago is the greatest city ever.
That's right.
It gets a bit overhyped. It's a nice city.
It's okay. It's okay. Chicago's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
With all due respect, we forgot to say with all due respect at the beginning.
Is that
no? Then we're clear. Yeah. Then we're yeah. With all due respect,
it's not a bad city at all. It's not a bad city at all. But it's hyped to be what LA and New York is, and it's not.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. It is on a lake. A lot of people get excited about Lake Michigan. Before we get to Zach here, we do have the Teak Corner. Any Teak Corner news that you want to? We talked a little bit earlier about the fraternity, but anything else in the Teak world that you want to make sure we mention here, Don?
We're starting the fourth quarter here, and I don't care what sport it is. Up. Get your four fingers up. I don't care what sport it is. Fourth quarter is where it is, and so for all of our groups out there, our volunteers. If you're someone who is only engaging in fraternity through listening to this podcast, there's obviously a lot of ways that you can contribute, both in terms of time, talent, and treasure. Now is the time, these last 3 months, to push to get through what has been an unbelievably historic year in terms of circumstances, but to also set us up for the future. And for our groups, if you've not recruited as well as you want, it's a chance to do another recruitment. If you've gone and crushed it in terms of recruitment, now it's our job to retain those folks, to educate those folks, to be very creative and innovative in the tools to make sure those guys are having a great experience, and also to provide a great experience for those graduating seniors, again, in a very unique year. We have to, as an organization, every level, from the international headquarters level, volunteers, collegiate members, continue to look about how you can engage and grow the experience and the value of being a TKE. And there's a number of ways to do that. Obviously, there's the in-person experience, there's online experience, there's the ability to utilize tools like Zoom, use the podcast, connect, create relationships and expand relationships in ways that have never been done before. But it really is that focus aspect. If folks treat this experience as something that is not critical to them, obviously it will not be critical to them. If they invest in it, if they engage in it, you and I are the benefactors of what the TKE experience can do for you and the opportunities that we've had. Heck, we just sat here and had a conversation about our top 3 cities. You and I would never have been able to go to those 3 cities and have those experiences and all the relationships if it weren't for Talk Cap Epsilon. So I really want folks to take advantage of this last quarter, these last 3 months, to push and to get the organization where it needs to be. Everybody plays a role in that. Obviously, I play a role in leading and directing that. You would do as well, Al. But let's not be confused here. All of our volunteers who put in that hard work on the ground, all of our groups that are pushing, all of our alumni out there, you are the reason why we have such a phenomenal organization, and we need you here in this fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think without TKE, our three favorite cities would probably be Indianapolis, Bloomington, Indiana, and maybe like Evansville, Fort Wayne, perhaps. So maybe Chicago would have cracked the rotation there.
Chicago definitely would have, because you get in a car and be in Chicago in 3 hours.
Sixth grade field trip I took up for the day, hit the aquarium. The only thing I would add is keep recruiting. I know that quote unquote rush weeks have concluded in a lot of places. That doesn't mean that recruitment is over. And one of the first things that you are taught when you join the fraternity is rush is 24/7, 365. But we don't do it all the time. We just we do our rush weeks. We hope guys show up, and then we give bids, and then we educate, and then we move on with our lives. That 24/7, 365 recruitment has to happen right now because there are goals that aren't being hit. There are metrics that chapters are not getting. And when I say that, I mean for themselves, goals that they set for themselves that they haven't hit because of the circumstances. Keep recruiting, keep meeting guys, keep giving out bids, it doesn't matter, if the reason you're not trying to give out any more bids is because you've already started new member education. I'm pretty confident in your ability, whether you're a volunteer, an officer, or whatever your position is, to catch a guy up for 2 weeks of TEAT guide readings that he missed. If it means getting someone to join the fraternity right now and not trying to push him back and wait until next semester. So keep going with Rush. It's not over. We still have 3 full months left before the fiscal year ends. There's plenty of time to still bring in new members, add them, educate them, and get them initiated so that you don't have to worry about losing them over the summer.
Yeah, people want to feel special. What a way to make somebody feel special than to keep recruiting them after the recruitment week is over, after rush week is over, right? To get out there and say, hey, you're worth us putting in some extra work, you and the 3 of your friends, or you and this group of 6-8 folks. We believe that you're important enough and special enough that we're going to keep getting after it and doing all we can to show you why this is going to change your life and make it better and help you to grow your potential.
Good segue there to our resident recruitment expert, Zachary Scott, as he joins the call here.
What's up?
What you got on your hat there today, Zach?
That's a Tampa. That's the University of Tampa, man. That's a Spartan.
Yeah, it is a Spartan.
That's not the university colors, though, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Red, white, black.
Goodness gracious. You understand this? You know what we have, Zach? We have an elitist.
Green.
We have an elitist on our hands.
I thought they were green.
It's hard because we're on the podcast and folks can't see that Swins is wearing a USC polo, which I love. Beta Sigma. They know that. Come visit every year. Sad I can't come this year. One of my favorite cities, LA. But some of us also ventured down to great universities like the University of Tampa, which is your home group, Zach, and you look great with that hat.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm sure the listeners at Upsilon-Lambda appreciate it as well.
Well, if they are listening, let's get another 100 listeners down there, folks. Let's tell your friends, tell your family. This is an engaging, entertaining program.
I thought they were green. All right, Zach. So you're home, is that correct? Or did you just
correct. I'm in my little
photos and your backdrop and transport it? You pack them?
I wish. I need to just take a picture of it and then I can upload it anywhere I am in the world. I'm in my little cubby hole.
Well, I'm glad you were able to get out for a little bit and hit Philly, as we've already covered on 2 episodes now, and Donnie's thoughts on that. Zach, so my question for you today, we bring in here shortly Joe Santangelo, who's a content creator with Team Gary Vee. We asked Joe a little bit about how to build a brand, how to market, and what he's learned throughout his career that could apply to our chapters. And I know we've asked you different versions of this question, but when you think you talk a lot about building a brand on campus, I know as a means to recruit, but if you're looking at a chapter who the immediate connotation with that chapter on campus is negative, someone says, hey, tell me about TKE, go up to a random student, tell me about TKE on this campus, and they just roll their eyes or make a funny sound or just ignore you completely, right? How do you take that where there might not be a good feeling or vibe about that chapter and start to repair that brand on a campus to where now, as is the case with many of the groups you've worked with, you go and ask someone about TKE and, oh, really cool guys. Oh yeah, we hang out with those guys. We do philanthropies with them. We do social events with them, right? How do you close that gap for groups that might be looking to try and enhance their brand on their campus?
Yeah, I'd be curious what the content creator himself can spin
You have
up.
to listen to the TKE Nation podcast.
That's correct. If it was me, I would be doing everything in my power to bring awareness to various issues, right? If there's a brand that we don't, I guess, connect with, or if there's a serious disconnect in one way or another, I would be leaning into those pieces. And how can we partner with various organizations on campus to maybe bring awareness to drunk driving? That's a major impact, I would say, on any college campus. How can we be doing seminars throughout the semester to impact that? How can we partner with maybe a sorority that their main philanthropy is something to do with domestic violence? How can we bring awareness to that issue? I think a lot of it revolves around how can we do some of those pieces that we probably aren't doing, right? Philanthropic pushes, other webinar, seminar pushes that we can be doing that are very simple and that a lot of us likely align with anyways. How can we bring that awareness to the rest of our campus? How can we open that up to not just the Greek community, but the community as a whole for our university? And having our name next to those is, I think, a big first step. As well as, again, some of the little things that I talk about with groups all the time of when you think of a great TKE chapter and a great TKE member, it should be the guy who's holding the door open for people. It should be the guy who's engaging students and asking them how their day is going. If someone looks like they're down, stopping by and just asking questions. And if they don't want to talk, that's fine. Wish them the best and move along. But I think it's the bigger picture. How can we bring awareness to various issues on our campus, partner for webinars, seminars, whatever it may be? I think you do a couple of those things and you start to change. You grab control of the narrative a little bit better. And then you also have to have an introspective look at the group as a whole, right? If you have bad actors, if there are guys that don't align with the values of our fraternity, you have to understand that you have the ability to take control of that situation and remove members. I know that's something that Donnie has talked about a lot with us of how do we better empower our membership to realize there is the capability to remove guys. You're not powerless in these situations. You just have to do it the right way.
Zach, if you could talk to your 19-year-old self right now about and have a conversation about recruitment, how differently would you attack recruitment, at 19, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, the first thing I would do is something I tell every group. Don't talk TKE first. Stop leading in. Fired Up does a really good job, and Alan, my buddies, RJ, did a great job of covering Don't Be Weird. That's one of the Fired Up pillars, I would say. Don't be weird. And what that means, right, is nobody understands what the three letters mean. Nobody understands what fraternity really is. Everyone has these preconceived notions, and it doesn't help when you're just pushing it down people's throats, or you're doing these weird kumbaya things with all your fraternity brothers and all these inside jokes and so on and so forth. The listeners can draw the pictures for themselves, but stop leading with the fraternity first piece and just build relationships. Again, doing that door opening and starting a conversation, doing that shaking of the hands, asking someone if they need a pen, and maybe that's where you give them a TKE pen, but that being it, right? And just asking them how their day's going, how they're prepared for class. A lot of that, right? I mean, when I was 19, 20, whatever it may be, as a recruitment chairman, it was, how can I talk to as many people as possible about the fraternity? When it should have been, how can I go out and build as many relationships as possible, add them to my personal network, and then see, right, where that relationship goes from there. So that would be the big piece.
I would probably tell my 19-year-old self, I know that pizza at the cafeteria is included in your meal plan, and it's probably the easiest grab and go food, but you're really going to regret eating it for 3 meals a day for a year and a half straight. So
right, I said recruitment advice. I didn't say life advice, food advice. I mean, let's be honest, you would have tried to create like 77 gambling options back then if you would have known and could talk to yourself.
Yeah,
No.
we've already talked about the blessing that it was to not have legalized sports gambling when I was a college student.
You basically, it would have been the plot of Back to the Future 2, isn't it?
I don't know. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Is it the original Back to the Future or Back to the Future 2? I think it's Back to the Future 2 where he takes the sports almanac, right?
Yep, that is correct. Yeah, because then they go to the future. Yep.
You got to wonder if Eric T.
They go back to
Yeah. Do you think Eric T. has seen Back to the Future 2, Al?
I don't know. We've spent enough energy on Eric T. Eric T. Zach, just for your edification, there's your podcast word of the day. Eric T. said that the worst movie he's ever seen is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I can't vibe with.
Yeah, I can't imagine many people would say that as their worst ever movie.
Well, the point that we made was if he's only seen like 3 movies in his life, and it's Godfather Part 1, Godfather Part 2, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, then that's a valid statement. But
makes me have another question of why haven't you watched Godfather Part 3? Then get the trilogy going. But
I've never watched Part 3. I've only watched 1 and 2.
See, here we go. Now who's going to be put on trial? Go ahead, Zach. Ask the question.
I don't understand.
Terrible? Isn't 3 terrible? I just can't bring myself to watch it. Everyone says it's so bad.
I personally don't think so. I think that if you're a fan of the Godfather trilogy, I mean, it's a trilogy. It's not a 2-movie set. It's a three-piece set. So I think you got to watch it. And whether you like it or don't like it, you still got to watch it.
You have to.
It's like Rocky. I love Rocky, but Rocky 5. Ooh, Rocky 4. Rocky 4. I love Rocky 4. Yeah. One of the greatest movies ever. Rocky 5. Woo! They should have stopped after they took down Drago. Should have stopped. Then we had to go after Tommy the Machine Gun. Yeah, it was not good.
I agree with you. All right, Zach. Well, that was fun. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good. Take it easy, everyone.
Go Spartans.
Go Spartans.
That's the Tampa mascot, Donnie.
The Tampa Spartan is red, just as if you are wearing a Trojan shirt right now. They are. What? Do you know what the colors of USC is?
Yeah, they're on my shirt right now.
Right, but do you know what they are?
It's probably like floral maroon and old gold or something like that. Like it's not just red and gold. There's got to be fancy words for it.
Right. I think it's scarlet and gold, but I'm probably wrong.
All right, sure.
But I was going to say the Green Spartans are that's Michigan State, which we do have a great group there as well.
That could be where my confusion. USC's official colors are Pantone 201C.
No, I don't need the brand, not the style guide.
USC Cardinal and USC Gold.
Cardinal and Gold. See, which is interesting because they really despise Stanford. So it's interesting that their colors are Cardinal and Gold.
I'm sure that there's some sort of battle about who came up with it first that maybe we'll get into another time. Going to move now to our guest profile, Joe Santangelo, and we will welcome him in. Joe is a graduate of the College of Staten Island, Upsilon-Lambda chapter. He is still in Staten Island, correct?
That is correct.
Still in Staten Island. And Joe is a content creator on Team Gary V, works for Gary Vaynerchuk, somebody that Donnie and I, for those who listen more than once, know someone that we enjoy listening to and taking in the content that Gary V and his team there is producing. So really excited to have you, Joe. Really excited to take a little bit of your time and pick your brain on a few things. First and foremost, how are things on Staten Island? How are things in New York City? Is life getting back to normal a little bit for you, or is it still wild out there?
Staten Island's always been wild, but I would say I don't think we're much more wild than usual. I think New York definitely got really crazy in 2020, but I feel like even every time I go, it still feels like New York. You know, the city never dies. It might be asleep for a minute, but I think it's gonna really rebound this year because the vaccine, everything's starting to open up. So I'm really optimistic about how New York's gonna be this year.
For sure. Good deal. I got into a discussion with Pete Dawson, for those listening who know Pete. Something maybe you can help me clear up here. So we say on Staten Island, correct? That's the correct term, not in Staten Island, on Staten Island.
Oh God, is this a real discrepancy that people have? Like
this is what Pete and I talk about. My confusion, I hear people say on Staten Island, but then I hear them say they're in Manhattan, but Manhattan's an island. So wouldn't you be on Manhattan as well? Donnie, thoughts?
Yeah, no. Joe, just so you know, it was probably a 30-minute conversation. This was probably 28 minutes of it, and 2 minutes of it was like GameStop discussion with stuff.
Yeah. I feel like, I like the GameStop talk, but no, I feel like I'm on Staten Island and I'm in Manhattan.
There you go.
And I get what you're saying, but like, I would definitely saying I'm in Manhattan. I'm on Staten Island.
Yeah, people laugh when I bring it up, but then they think about it and they say, "Hey, that's a great point, Alex." Which, at the end of the day, that's all I'm looking for is just to make great points.
You know what? The irony of this conversation that we're starting out is that I feel like the whole thing that's happening here, Joe, is that Al has this giant hole in his heart that he hasn't been to Manhattan in a year plus.
A year. Yeah.
I'm not too far behind you, so I'm speaking from experience too here. But both of us just wanting to get the feeling of New York City. And
that's right. We can't go to New York City, we'll bring New York City to the Teak Nation podcast.
Well, and I'll tell you this too, Joe. So the Venerable Grand Preakness is from Staten Island, right? He grew up, Dr. Jim Hickey, he grew up in Staten Island.
On Staten Island.
Yes, he grew up on Staten Island. And so the last RLC we had, which would have been 2019, after the RLC was over, he took myself and a few of us to Staten Island to his favorite Italian restaurant. Unbelievable experience.
Do you remember the name of the restaurant?
I want to say, this is horrible. I don't want to say it's like Veronica's, or it was like a single name.
So this could be anything. Oh man, no. Any single Italian name, there's like half the restaurants.
I know, that's horrible, isn't it? That's horrible. I would say it was unbelievable. Unbelievable food. Unbelievable.
Well, I'm glad you guys like the homeland, but yeah, no.
So first question for you as we get into it, I'm curious, you're in the marketing and the content creation field. That's seems like a pretty popular way to go right now, whether you create content professionally or people who are creating content on an amateur level trying to become a professional. What was it about that field that appealed to you that you wanted to get involved in this as a full-time job and build a career out of it?
Honestly, I took a couple of media classes and they would go over because when I was a little kid, I was always interested in cartoons and television and thinking, what's the best lineup on a TV network? So after taking media classes, that was the only thing that was exciting to me. But after being in college for years, even while I was in Teak, my main thing is what am I actually going to do with this? Okay, I'm going to school to get this piece of paper, and then what happens after it? I had this delusional idea that you get out of college and it's basically a job pass and you just walk into a job. And it's it took me till my senior year, and I was the Teak president at the time, the Preakness, and really just realizing okay, what am I going to do with this? Where video editing was the only outlet I saw of a tangible skill I could do that made sense. So I literally, in my senior year, I took a video editing class that it was not a requirement to take. And I asked for a laptop for my graduation, Christmas, all three, birthday, all the presents. And I taught myself to edit in the back of this class because they were going a little too slow for me. And then after there's the skill of video editing, and then there's, okay, what do people use this for? Where they either make things that people appreciate, like movies, television, or they use it to sell stuff. And that is honestly how I discovered Gary Vee, because it was just right into okay, how are people using this skill to sell stuff on the internet?
So you mentioned your Teak experience a little bit, and I think there's some tie-ins between what you learn in the fraternity and just the fact that you had the drive to teach yourself a skill and then go monetize that skill. But how did your Teak experience, what you were able to do as a member at Upsilon-Lambda, how did that contribute to your success and lead you down a path that you're going down today?
So it's Teak when I found Teak and I almost like stumbled into it, I didn't know what frats were. I didn't know like anything. The only reason I even think I went through with it is because I went on the Teak website and I saw that the wrestler The Big Show was a Teak. And literally, because I'm a big wrestling fan, and I was like, oh, so some people were actually like part of this. So it's not just some random group that like these people at school want me to join. But it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in college because I needed the social education more than I needed the classes almost. It's like the social infrastructure that Teak provides, where it has its own little, because it's like every job you go to in your life is going to have a hierarchy of some sort. It's going to have a leadership structure, and you're going to have to listen to the leadership, and there are going to be people in different committees responsible for stuff. So Teak was like the archetype for like me learning almost what the real world, like aspects of the real world. And it's almost like, you know, we're an engine. So like I was the treasurer for a little bit. So like as the treasurer, I had to learn, okay, well, this is why we need money to pay for stuff. And this is the stuff we need. And this is how the whole circle goes around. So without that experience in college, I don't think I would have been as advanced social, like the social skills I needed to make relationships in the real world that led to my professional quote unquote success was formed in Teak.
So Joe, before I get into my first question for you, I did get a text from the Grand Prix as I reached out to him. The restaurant we went to is Angelina's, which he said is in the Tottenville section of the island.
I've been to Angelina's. It is a phenomenal restaurant.
Amazing.
So I'm glad we cleared this up. Now we skip some respect on.
It was weighing on me. Yes.
Did Angelina's drop us a check for a little advertising, a little 30-second spot on the TKE podcast?
Or just, you know, get some pasta out this way, or, you know, all sorts of opportunities. It was
cool. I'm going to send them the clip after and try and get my cut. Don't worry.
There you go.
Good man. So Joe, you talked a little bit about your experience in the fraternity. Can you talk about your professional experience? I mean, someone working in such a, I would say almost a dream scenario in terms of a position, a job, you know, what you do. It's something obviously that is great to have on a resume, but also just interested in the folks hearing what you do and the type of experiences that you have in your current role.
So, I mean, so I work on Team Gary V. Like probably I have discovered Gary, as I said, like right when I was graduating from college in around 2016. And I, regardless of whether I was a video editor, like for whichever organization, Gary's content was almost in the back of my head. Whereas if it was a company I was at where it's just like, oh, it's not being run the way I think it should be. And almost in my head, it's like, why isn't this more like Gary describes VaynerMedia as being on his podcast? And I guess I just always knew, I always like heard what he was saying. I was like, no, that's right. Like I felt it, even though people I know in my life were like, no, that guy, like that guy's a charlatan or that guy's or whatever. Like, you know, there's so many voices out there on social media. Like I get it. So the way I got on Team Gary is I was working a really like bad job right before this. Like I was in a video studio, but it was just archaic, like really old technology, wasn't going anywhere. And I finally had enough after a year and a half and quit. And on my last day, in the last hour, I saw the job posting for Team Gary V, which I was lucky enough that I had been working on my own wrestling Instagram. Like, as I've mentioned previously, I'm a wrestling fan. I had been almost using the Gary V model in my head of, okay, make a daily wrestling video for this Instagram. So like right place, right time, preparation meets opportunity. In the last hour, I, from my wrestling Instagram, sent the Team Gary V page a DM because I saw this app. I immediately applied, and it all, like, then you go through the process. It all went through. They liked me. I started there about a year ago, so it's been a good year.
I'm curious, and I agree with you in terms of the way that Gary talks about VaynerMedia and VaynerX and how they operate. It appeals to me, and I love hearing him talk about it. How does how does Gary and how does his executive team create that atmosphere? How do they create that environment that A, people want to be a part of, but then B, people get in and they get the best out of the individuals that they have on their team?
I would say it's like the first word that came to my mind is almost religion, in that it's like literally the things that Gary talks about in his content are the pillars that he is as a person. Like he backs up what he says. Like he's the same person 24/7, because you can't talk that much and not be the person you are. That's the best part about putting out a lot of content. Combined with, like, he really cares about the people who work for him and is accountable to them. So the same thing I thought when I was at other jobs, I was like, why aren't you run by VaynerMedia? I got to VaynerMedia and I was like, oh, it's run exactly like you said 3 years ago on your podcast. Go figure. So I think just like, listen, I think there's always a fine line with some employers between like accountability and then like almost like pushing them too far. And I've worked for people that was more like, okay, it's just the bottom line. It's about the business. It's if what you're doing is beneficial to the business, then it's good. And if it's not beneficial to the business, then it's bad. VaynerMedia very much cares about the people who work for it, to where if it's not something even in the best, like if it's in the best interest of the person, that is the priority. So I think that's the thing. A lot of companies, like, I don't want to generalize, right? But a lot of companies are so involved in what they're doing that sometimes the people problems get glossed over.
What's been the biggest surprise, Joe, in working for Gary V?
I mean,
is there an area where you've grown even exponentially more than you thought you possibly would have walking in the door?
Jesus, yes. Oh my God, I was a freelancer before this, and let me tell you, if I put out the same level of content that I've put out in the last year on Team Gary V as a freelancer, my freelance career would have ended differently. Like, I think there's just something about being in the environment for growth with the creative people, and like there's not a crazy timeline. Like, okay, you have time to think and grow and then do it every day. That's the thing. The consistency factor is like, I'm learning a process. I'm doing that process every day. And then I'm brainstorming with people who are in depth in that process. And then the final thing is passion. Like, I really love what I do. And the thing is like, I'm really simple. I like three things for the last couple of years. I like Gary V content, I like pro wrestling, and I like Bitcoin. And right now I'm making Gary V Bitcoin videos. So it's like, I'm the happiest guy on earth. Like, if you know what you love and what you love to talk about, then almost like the path to that thing starts to illuminate itself.
Yeah, I was reading a book recently, and they talked a little bit about this concept, what you're mentioning about passion. And the thing that they highlighted as well is find the thing that you have talent in and you have an interest in, right? You have to marry those two. Because a lot of people think, well, just chase your passion. Well, if your passion is to be an NBA player and you're 5'2", like, right, that's probably not going to work out for you. So follow your passion in something that you have some talent in, and the world can be your oyster. And it sounds like that's what you found in the past year.
Yo, but you know what the best thing is? Like, I love that, and I think there's something to that. Like, all right, if you're 5'2", don't try and be a basketball player, right? But I really see like the 5'2" person who really believes they can be an NBA player and just documents it every day. Like, all right, I'm here at 5 a.m. shooting hoops. Okay, I'm at the tryout. The one time that guy makes a basket in a professional game, it'll mean more than any basket that any mid-level player. So I think, honestly, if you are true to what you believe in, like the people in this world that I disagree with, if I believe that they believe themselves, to me, that's like a notch up of respect, because it means like, you know who you are, you know what you're doing and why.
One of the things I'm curious about from a broader perspective is, your role now and your really career up to this point has been on building content that people want to consume, and how can you get the most eyes on a video, or how can you get the most ears on a podcast? And I think that there are some applications there for our members and for our chapters, because we know that the groups that build a strong brand on their campus, that are able to get the most eyes on their Instagram page and are able to get the most people interested in their rush events, those are the groups that are successful. So what would you tell a group that maybe has struggled to get that foothold on campus, who's trying to build that brand? What are maybe some techniques or some thoughts or ideas that you have learned throughout your career that could also apply to a TKE chapter?
I almost want to lead with the same word I did with the last question, and that's religion. And that I really think that you need to make a religious culture about providing value in your content. So it's like the only reason you will watch or listen to anything in this never-ending sea of content is because you think it will provide you something, some kind of value. So I need people to think a little bit selfishly into, why do I listen to content? What am I trying to get from people or from this thing? Whether it's making money, whether it's a better skill, whether it's like history. TKE provided a lot of that to me through experience. And then the goal with content needs to be providing like little bits of that to draw them back to you. Because the real experience is the group. It's the group in the room, you know, it's 10 dudes sharing their stories, learning together, trying to do something. So it's like, on one hand, it's hard to provide that real person-to-person experience through a social media post, but you can tell like stories like mine or stories like people in your chapter who have seen that value, who have gotten that value, conveying that, like, because at the end of the day, again, you won't listen if you don't think it's going to give you anything. There's too much out there.
Joe, do you have any great stories from your experience in the past year? Anything that stands out as, you know, either an experience on your team, or if you have engaged with Gary at all, just any stories that stand out?
Honestly, I mean, like, my first answer is I have hundreds. Like, I can go on for hours about like stories of TKE and Team Gary and my like life. But I'll say that one thing that I really admire Gary is that I talked to Gary on a work basis, right? But I've had like a couple like real conversations, and like there was one time where I was really trying to get a word in at the end because like I just wanted one more question. You know, Gary's kind of my idol. Like, I just one more question, and he said like something to the tune of like, Joe, I see you're about this life. Like, well, if this will happen again, I see you, Joe. And that one line, like, I see you, Joe, I don't know if you've ever been seen by the person that you respect. So, like, just to be told that, like, you've been seen, like, you're there from someone who you really respect. But that's a feeling that I really wish on everyone.
I think that's a pretty awesome story, and I agree with you on trying to find that feeling, trying to find that person that you can connect with that can bring you that. You know, I'm curious. My last question, Joe, is:
Wait, are you saying when I give you a compliment that doesn't?
Well, I've had, you know, you've dished me 3 or 4 compliments in the 7 years that I've been on staff. So it's just kind of old at this point.
How did those feel? I mean,
it's repetitive. The first one was great. 2 and 3 were oh wow, this is nice, and then 4 is just like, all right, like I get it, buddy. So
that's why I stopped. That was about 3 years ago. Last one I remember.
On to the next one. My last question, Joe, is you know, you've obviously right now you're working on a team, you're working for Gary V. When you think about what's next for you, whether that's leading your own team or starting your own company or whatever that might be, following the wrestling content creation path, I think you've shared a lot of really good lessons that you've learned in the last year alone. But, you know, what's going to stick with you as you become that guy that maybe someone else looks up to, that maybe someone else wants to work with in the future? You know, how are you going to take what you're learning now and apply that throughout the rest of your life as a leader?
I think what really sticks with me the most right now is, and I'll repeat something I said, is that like the people I respect the most in this world are the ones who believe what they say, who know what they're about, and who don't deviate from that. So it's like, I mean, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but like whether they're like political people, like I like someone like a Bernie Sanders is someone who believes in everything he says, whether I agree with what he said or not. But like there are people on the right who I could also agree with who even if they have a completely different opinion, I know they believe in what they're saying. So I just think you have to know what hill you're willing to die on. But then the second thing is you got to give a fuck about other people. Or I'm sorry, I don't know if we could curse on this, but you got to care.
We'll bleep it.
You got to care about other people. Like if you don't care about other people first, then you're going to get exposed and everyone's going to know. And that's like that. Say what you want about like cancel culture. I honestly think it's like a backlash against people almost being the other way of like, there's so many people have not cared about people and it's gone unnoticed that it's created a societal backlash of people who need to like, oh no, like people need to care for each other. And sometimes it goes too far. Like some people get really annoyed, like it becomes anger of people need to care for each other. But it's like people need to care for each other and people need to be honest with what they say. Be honest, be nice. Like I feel like it's basic lessons we probably should have all learned in kindergarten.
Be genuine, be authentic, and be nice to other human beings. I love that message.
Yeah, man.
What message I always like to end, Joe, and essentially give people the platform, which is the ability to speak to all of Teekdom, all of Teek Nation. Do you have any messages, any themes, and you've shared a number of them in this interview. Things that either you learned through your Teek experience or even through Gary Vee. Just any message you would give to anybody listening out there, whether they're a collegiate member still thinking about that career and what as you talked about, right, that job that could be there when post college, or even any of our alumni frauders who are out there tuned in and want to take advantage of the knowledge and experience you've gained.
So much, man. I would say like it's so like I don't want to just say believe in yourself, right? I think it's like you have to learn how to believe in yourself. Like, and that's tough because like you almost got to go to the dark place and find out why you don't believe in yourself. Because so like that was my get up, is like I did not believe in myself for too long in my life, where like I realize now, I see where I'm at now, and I look back and I was like, I was always capable then, I'm still capable now, but there's just all these things that happen that make us doubt ourselves. And whether it's something from a parent from when you're little, or whether it's like a girlfriend from when you're older, and it's just like once I guess one of the best things I learned from Gary is once you shut out other people's opinions, positive and negative, it gets like, once it gets real quiet in your head, then it gets interesting. Then you like find out who you really are. Besides that, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, that's what I want to tell. That's what I want to tell TKE Nation. Believe in yourself, be nice. Black Lives Matter. Those are my final message. Yeah.
There you go. Beautiful. Well, I do want to. I think you have the first official F-bomb on the TKE Nation podcast. So I'd have lost a lot of money betting not on myself, but I should have known it was going to come from Staten Island. I guess that would have been the smart money.
I was going to say there's a lot of stereotypes there. We got to be careful with that.
Also, guys, have you ever watched Gary Vee? Gary Vee curses like half my job.
We try and pick and choose what we pull, but yeah.
I love it, but Al wants this to be a family show.
Yeah, there's kids listen. No, I would be very surprised if one child has ever listened to TKE.
Our kids aren't allowed in the fraternity. We're 18 plus here.
That's right. So yeah, maybe someone in the car, they got it on. Their kids in the back seat. That you never know. You got to be. We have people for that. Garrett will take care of it.
Thanks, Garrett. Wherever you are, I'm sorry I caused you more work. I've been that guy, and I really honestly, dude, my bad.
I think Donnie's caused Garrett enough work for 3 lifetimes, so I don't think you have to apologize.
From one content creator to another there. That was behind the scenes speak.
All right, Joe. Well, we appreciate the time, man. Can't thank you enough. Appreciate the insights, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Want to thank Joe one final time for spending some time with us. And I think there was a lot of really good information that he shared there. He talked a lot about obviously what he's learned throughout his career and throughout his time on Team Gary V, and really the lessons that he shared align pretty well with what we try and talk about on our staff and in our lives, and even occasionally on this podcast. Any final takeaways from the interview there, Don?
Just want to thank Joe for his time. I think all of us have every once in a while, dream or think about working for somebody like a Gary V, who has aspects of genius in him, someone who is, goes 100 miles an hour. And obviously that's something that can be inspirational and motivational. And it's great to hear Joe just talk about how much he loves Gary V, essentially, right? Like I worshiped at the throne of this guy, and now I get to work for him. And I am even more excited about the experience. Too many times in life, you hear about folks who they really like a person, whether it be an actor, actress, business mogul, whoever it is, right? And they finally get a chance to meet them, or a sports superstar. And unfortunately, the experience is far less than what they dreamed it would be. Sounds like Gary V has met the mark and even gone above in Joe's eyes, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's the old never meet your heroes adage. Maybe a rule of three for the future. Your top 3 heroes that you probably shouldn't meet because they probably just let you down tremendously. I get to meet my heroes, every time we have a grand council meeting. So
that's a smart play there for you. That is a smart play. If you had to pick up your favorite hero in the grand council, which one would you select?
Oh man, goodness!
I just took you from the penthouse, and we're gonna go straight down from here. Take the elevator.
It's hard to.
Careful.
Cole Connor.
That's a man of the collegiates.
DAC chairman. I'm so inspired by Cole's daily words and deeds that I just, and I'll tell you what, the man that you think Cole is, he's everything that you could have dreamed him to be. So Cole, if you're listening, just thank you for inspiring me and the rest of the Grand Council too. Anything else?
I think that's a great way to end the episode on this absolute high.
Good thing we plugged it at the end there. Everyone will be, done listening by this point. So, all right, please subscribe. Say it every week. If you haven't done it by now, can't help you. Subscribe, smash the like button, hit us up, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Believe we're going to be doing a little more audience engagement. Please don't drop any just ridiculous takes as we've discussed in great detail. But if you have anything, that you could add that could be productive to the conversation, please do so. And we'll catch you next week. Enjoy the week, everyone. Enjoy March. Enjoy spring. Goodbye.